Hey, this is Kieran, Coach's Corner Chats, and joining me is Corbin Bowers. Corbin, where are you at and what are you up to?
Hey, Kieran. Thanks for having me. Sitting here in Salem, Oregon, my office, deep in recruiting and planning for our spring season with the current guys, and prepping for a baby here in January.
Oh, wow. Uh, First thing, recruiting. I keep seeing a lot of stuff out there on social media. What does that even encompass? Like, is it just a everyday 24/7 grind at this point?
Absolutely. It's nonstop. I think it's the lifeblood of success in college athletics and to soccer, like any sport. And it's constant conversations, phone calls, Zooms, watching film, helping guys apply, just ins and outs of everything apply, recruit to help find guys that are the best fit for our squad.
And then you mentioned the little one. Is this the first that you'll have?
Yes, it is. First one, January, middle of January.
And how do you think that will affect or change some things in terms of your coaching?
It's definitely going to be life changing, and I think I've spent years telling my current players to work on their time management skills. Now it's my turn. So I want to be the best father I can be, the best husband, but also still be the best coach I can be to the guys. So I think it's just staying on top of things way better. I feel like I'm organized. I feel like I do well with managing my time, but now just adding a new factor in, and I'm excited for it.
And you talked about Oregon. What's it been like to be at Oregon? How long have you been at Corbin? And when you got there, what were some of the things that you wanted to kind of get in place to continue to build on?
Yeah, I moved to Oregon in June from Minnesota. So my wife and I packed up a U-Haul in our car and we drove across the country and got here right onto the job. The university helped us get some housing on campus, which was great, and just kind of hit the ground running. Got to explore, got to enjoy everything that Oregon has to offer and stuff that we tell our guys about. But it was for me like instilling our culture into the squad. I'm a big culture guy, maybe cliche or not, and that's another maybe buzzword out there right now. But we wanted to pursue excellence at everything we did. So just quickly trying to get on phone calls with guys. At the NAI level, we were able to train with some guys in the summer. So just being able to have those one-on-one opportunities with them, talk to them, see what they like, what they don't like, what they wanted to see change. And everything was just planning this excellent culture that we could have here at the university at the soccer program.
What was it that drew you to Corbin? Because that's a pretty large jump. Minnesota, Midwest, winters, cold, and all that stuff to now kind of what most people think is rainy West Coast. What was the draw?
Yeah. So I grew up in a Christian home. Corbin is a Christian university, so there was a faith, a calling there to come and be in an environment similar to what I'd grown up in. I went to Anderson University in South Carolina, which is another Christian school. So that was maybe the first part. And then secondly, a draw to the Pacific Northwest. Had this dream of living in Washington, Oregon, and this was just a unique opportunity to be able to coach and live here, and wanted to enjoy that. And felt like also wanted to coach at a different level, make the change from NCAA D3 to NAIA, work in a completely different realm of soccer. Spent a lot of time talking to it with my wife, and we just felt like it'd be a cool new reset for us, and we could try it and really fall in love with the place.
You mentioned Anderson in South Carolina. If we go even further back, when does Corbin start getting into the game of soccer? Were you playing as a youth? What started you on this transition to the love of soccer?
Yeah. So my parents were missionaries, so they lived overseas in South America for most of their life. So my brother and I were born and raised in Ecuador, and then we lived in Colombia as well. So I can remember playing soccer from like the age of probably 3-ish with my dad. And then everywhere we moved, from city to city, from country to country, soccer was what helped me socialize, make new friends, learn new languages, all that fun stuff. Soccer was just like a consistent in my life. Always played it, and it was a great way to socialize. And then as I got older in high school, I played at a pretty high level in Colombia, the semi-pro level. So I've been playing my whole life, been around it forever. It's like a lot of my fond memories are tied in one way or another to the game. Then I wanted to play in college. In South America, you probably have to choose if you're going to study full-time or if you're going to be a student full-time. And this was a great opportunity to do both. So played college soccer, studied kinesiology. And I thought, hey, I was going to go be a doctor, be a sports doctor, go to med school, had a big wake up call and changed. And my coaches really gave me like this inspiration that I could be a coach, that I had a knack for it. So they brought me on staff at Anderson. That was my first opportunity, was to coach at my alma mater. In the background is like a third assistant, operations, learn the ropes, and see if that's what I really wanted to do. With the caveat, it was cool. Like they said, hey, you can only be here a year, and that you have like this official 1-year contract, and then we got to find you like an actual coaching spot. And that's when I landed in Minnesota after that. So soccer's been in my life forever, and I'm excited to do that at every spot I've had, every stop, and soccer driving everything I do is pretty cool.
When you look back at the times in like Ecuador and Colombia, how does that help you now as a coach when you're dealing with players from, I guess, coming from all over the place?
Yeah. Here at Corbin, our team is super diverse. We have a huge Hispanic, Latino, international flair on our squad. So having a coach that can speak to them in Spanish when it's necessary, that can sometimes run parts of sessions in Spanish or coach them in the game in Spanish is cool. They love that. They just identify a lot more with us, with myself. One of my assistants comes from a Latino background as well. And I think it's helped all along in recruiting, being able to sit down with a Hispanic family and do a tour in Spanish or do financial aid in Spanish. It's just another layer to us really wanting to get to know a guy and his family as close as possible. And I think relating to the style of soccer we play, their culture, I'm a big possession, flair, South American style player coach. Our guys love doing that because that's who we have on our roster. So it's just all this like cool melting pot. And that was my experience at Anderson too. We had guys from all over the world, and we were able to learn about each other's culture, language. It was just cool. I think soccer and culture, this hand-in-hand thing, that's pretty awesome.
You've used the word flair. What are some of the other things that when you look back at Colombia and Ecuador and playing in South America that are a little bit different in terms of what you see here in the States? I know there's a lot of passion. Like what, you step out of school at the end of the day. I mean, is there just pickup games all over the place, or what is that environment like?
Yeah. So, I mean, I didn't play in an organized club until high school, and I made it onto like a semi-pro team. So I was able to play good enough street soccer to make it as a semi-pro and make it at college soccer. Not like a brag, but just like we played all day, every day, recess with soccer. You're done with school, soccer. You wanted to go to the park with your friends. There's cement courts, there's futsal courts, there's turf everywhere to play, or you find a way to make it. And maybe like the pictures or movies or videos, like if we didn't have goals, it was 2 water bottles or our shoes or something. It was just, you get to play everywhere. So I think when we see a lot of stuff on social media about the guys in Brazil that played on the street and learned, and that's how they're so skilled. And then they played futsal. Like it was similar in Ecuador and Colombia, where school team, but mostly just street pickup with my friends, and just really zoning in on individual technique and how to play. But like you mentioned, passion. I've been to a few pro games, a few national team games. It gets dicey. Like my parents weren't too like particular about me going to the pro games, because you'd have like the two like fan groups fighting each other and stuff. Probably not the best environment for a high school kid. So it's just a whole nother level where they care so intensely about it, right or wrong, but it's just like in their blood that they're going to care about soccer. They're going to care about their club, their national team. And I feel like I've been able to introduce that to our guys, is to really care about every spot I've been at, to care about the school or the team you represent and play with like the utmost passion you can.
You mentioned the coaches at Anderson saying, "Hey, we think this coaching thing might be good for you." What do you think they saw in you, like as a player, that they thought, "Oh, that's going to transcend and really help him when he becomes a coach"?
Sure. I would say the relationships. I was fortunate enough to speak like multiple languages, and when you guys came to the team, I really helped them with like, hey, let's help you set up a phone, let's help you set up a bank account in the States, let's go find you a bed. So just like the relationships that are important to coaching. But I also think like the questions, I wanted explanations to what we did in training, like how is this going to help us win a game, or why is this our strategy? So it's just like those higher level questions of why is this important to our squad, and having like a good like soccer IQ maybe, and being a bit of a soccer junkie, which is like what my dad calls me. all that combined into, hey, maybe this guy could cut it. He cares enough. He's smart. He understands the game. Now we just got to help him like put it into practice of setting up sessions, scouting, all that fun stuff.
So you do the year there and the unofficial official job. And then how do you end up at Minnesota? Do you just reach out? Is there connections? How does Corbin go from South Carolina end up in Minnesota?
Yeah. So my coach at Anderson was just encouraged me to like, you just got to get your foot in the door in college. I think that's like once you get your start, it's a fun life. So I was applying to everything. I think I went through. Sometimes I keep track, or I look back to it. Maybe applied to like 50 different schools that unofficial year with Anderson, and St. Mary's in Minnesota was an assistant role for men and women. I was willing to do both. I just wanted to get my foot into the game. Those guys responded, got back to me. I had interviews with them, got to fly out to Minnesota, visit the campus, all that stuff. So it was just me. Like my parents were still in South America. My brother was in Virginia at the time. So it was easy enough to say, hey, I'll take this job, pack up my Corolla and just drive from South Carolina up to Minnesota. I just wanted to get in, and I wasn't willing to like risk it and say, oh, something better will come along. It was an awesome opportunity to be a coach that young in my career. And it was fortunate because 8-9 months later, the men's coach retired and I was hired as the head coach. So I was 24 and I was a college head coach, and that was a whole nother awesome experience.
The one thing that I heard was coaching both the women's and the men's. What was that dynamic like in terms of how you went about dealing with players, and was it still focused relationship wise and all that type of stuff? Or what did you see some differences, pros and cons of dealing with both?
Yeah, it was definitely different, and I tried to maybe fill in what the head coach wanted me to do, like what were his strengths or weaknesses, and how I could best help their program. On the men's side, I was at that school. I was very tactics driven. I was watching and putting together scouting reports. And it was more like on the field stuff. Whereas with the women, I was doing a lot of recruiting. So that's where maybe I really fine tuned my relationship building skills. That's what the women's coach wanted me to focus on, was recruiting. So I was on the road a lot, phone calls, going to games, going to practices, and maybe that helped me blend into the coach I am today. And there's similarities, but there's differences. It was two different styles of soccer. It was two different types of programs. So I got to learn a lot of what to do, what not to do, in good ways. And it was fun to interact with two completely different teams at the same school.
The other thing I hear is 24. That's young. What was it like? I mean, you think about some of the players are 22, 23 years old. What was that dynamic like to try to make sure that they understood I'm coach, not like a peer, I guess, in a way?
Sure. We came down to like core values and like having a strict culture and just like wanting to turn around our men's soccer program, and that mutual level of respect. Like I was your coach. I wasn't going to act like as your father figure. I was maybe going to be that older brother coach, but I was going to build that level of respect that I was going to give you and expect that you give back to me. You're right. I mean, I was only at that point probably only 3 years older than my seniors, and I was their head coach. And it was cool. That group of first seniors that I got to coach were extremely bought in to transforming our style, our culture, our success on the field. And they didn't really care about the age of their coach. They just wanted to compete and win. And we built some really awesome mutual respect early on.
When you look back at that, what was it that kind of, number one, you were there, but when the job opening came up, did you think, yes, I'm going to go for this? Was that kind of the opening that you were looking for?
Yeah, I mean, then I was young, and I wouldn't say young and dumb, but I was just like a young, like arrogant male that I can be a head coach right away. But I was blessed enough that my men's head coach at the time maybe gave me a heads up, maybe 3 or so months before, that he was going to retire. And so like the last part of the season, he was prepping me to take over if the interview process went well. So I was doing a little more than just being assistant. Maybe our roles switched at times where I was leading drills or I was coming up with stuff for our strategy. So he was putting me in a position to succeed and to show the players early on, oh, this guy could be a really good head coach for us. And then I had other coworkers at St. Mary's that really helped me right away to just the rights, the do's, the don'ts, the right thing, the wrong thing. I just had a really good support system and a really great network that made me a successful young coach.
And then how long were you at St. Mary's?
I was there 7 years total, 6 as head coach.
And when you look back at that, what were some of the big takeaways that you took from that? Like even from the first time when you started out to that 7th year, what were some of the things you were kind of proud of that you built there?
I without a doubt, our culture transformed where we were excellent at everything, or maybe the results didn't follow the way we wanted to. So like the wins and losses was maybe one thing I look back and sometimes regret, but I think overall the culture we built, the academic success. In one of our years there, we led the country Division III level and community service hours, and that was awesome as well. So we did a lot of this stuff outside of just winning soccer games that I took a lot of pride in. And maybe as a young coach, I was so focused on win, win, win. And it's taken me some time to realize, okay, the wins and losses weren't there, but we did a lot of awesome things off the field. We were able to transform some guys' lives, help them at the D3 level. We were helping them out with awesome, life-changing jobs. We have a young man that works for the Dallas Mavericks right now, and that's awesome for somebody to work in the pros coming from us. So those are the things I look back on and how, okay, now we're at an elite NAIA program. We can still build that. We can still pursue like wins and losses, but we know better all the ins and outs of a college program and how we want to inspire these guys.
So you get those 7 years. What's the next step for Corbin?
Sure. I'm happy here. You know, it's for me, this is a great spot to take my coaching abilities to the next level. Be in an environment where I'm pushed to grow, get to work with some top level players. I ultimately want to keep climbing the coaching ladder and be the best overall coach I can be. Where that takes me, I don't know. We're happy here in the Pacific Northwest and just waiting for the right opportunities. But this is a place where I can grow, where my family can grow, where I can learn a lot. And I'm just making myself a better coach every day.
When you talked about working and doing things in the community, is that something that has been just kind of, I guess, poured into you being around your parents and seeing the time that they've spent in other countries and taking their time doing impact on the communities that they're in?
Yeah, I would say so. I mean, it was their whole life, their whole work, if you will, in air quotes, was about serving others. So that was a huge part of my life, and I think it's super important. I think back to people in South America that were extremely less fortunate than us, and I just want to give back and help. And I think soccer is a great way to do that. We get looked up to as being collegiate athletes. We have a huge platform, and if we can put young men in situations where they're helping others, where they're seeing outside of their bubble, I think that's super important for them to realize what the real world looks like.
The other thing, we started the whole conversation, you talked about recruiting and then the little one on the way. What has it been like, for your wife in terms of, getting up and driving the U-Haul all the way to where you're at that time, I'm assuming pregnant. And just how has she been in terms of the support, not only now, but even at the time, at St. Mary and all those other places that you've come along?
Yeah. It's funny enough. So I found out that I was offered the job at Corbin, and I think we found out 3 days later that my wife was pregnant. So it all came together really fast, and we were blessed really quickly in multiple lives. But she's been awesome. I think I saw you were asking, and maybe it was your Twitter or X, sorry, about like coaches' spouses, and she's a rock star at it. She's been super supportive. She moved to Minnesota. Now she's moved to Oregon. She's learning soccer. She doesn't know the ins and outs of it, but she's at every home game. She helps us sometimes on the road, like as a team manager. And she's got to know the current players, and they've embraced her as part of the family too. So I couldn't ask for a better like coach's wife, and she sacrificed a lot to make sure I could chase this soccer dream. She helps me through the lows too, like ask her for advice. And she's got a unique aspect, not being a coach, not being an athlete. She'll give me her unique perspective on situations where we've been, how to solve problems. So she's been awesome.
The other thing that I've always liked to ask coaches is like, is there a time where you're able to turn the soccer brain off? And if so, what things does Corbin do to kind of maybe get away from things a bit?
I try to. I used to be really bad at it where it was go, go, go. Like I said, my dad calls me a soccer junkie. So it was hard early in my career where all I wanted to do was soccer, be watch pro, think through stuff, stay in the office super late. I like the women's basketball coach at my old school, and I would compete to see who could stay in the office the longest working on our sport. Silly stuff. It was fun. And now that I have a family, my priorities have changed. My wife and I love the outdoors. That's probably why we're in Oregon. So we do a lot of hikes together. We've gone to the coast a few times here. So we try to unplug getting into nature. She loves coffee. I lived in Colombia, so coffee is a big deal to me. So we try to discover new coffee shops. That's kind of our thing too. And I like to cook. So Wei and my wife doesn't cook. So we'll come home, and my way to like disengage from practice or a game is to get lost in the kitchen. So I'd say between the outdoors, the kitchen, coffee shops, and I like to read, but I end up reading a lot about soccer. So those are maybe how I disengage from the game.
The other thing I was going to ask about is, so you move and you're in the States. You talked about your brother being in Virginia back in the day. What has it been like for your parents to kind of watch you? You know, at that time you said, I'm going to school, I'm going to kinesiology and kind of go after this doctor type of idea. And now it's gone into this. What has it been like for them to watch your journey, life journey change a little bit and see that now you've landed in Oregon?
Yeah. My parents were wise enough where when I moved to the States, they wanted me to be in the South because we had a family there and have a support system. And then as I learned to live in the States on my own and matured, was able to move off to Minnesota and Oregon. We're a big soccer family, so they live stream every game. My dad from his own couch gives us insight on tactics and strategy and feedback on the games, which is cool. My mom's more of a fan. She just cheers. She celebrates the goals when my guys score, or she like pumps us up after big wins. So I've got like a coach and a fan in my corner when it's my parents. But they traveled their whole life. I mean, my mom lived in Thailand on her own for a couple of years. My parents moved to South America and have lived in 4 countries. My mom counted once. I think they've moved like close to 30 times. So they understand the journey I'm on of bouncing from state to state or team to team. They give great advice. They helped us like talk through how do you move across the country. So they're an awesome support system. And maybe that's why we were able to do it so successfully, is watch them do it in other countries multiple times. I knew how to move and how to pick up and start a life somewhere new.
One of the other things you mentioned about Corbin was that it was very faith-based. How important has that been for you in terms of making that jump and kind of just like putting this in God's hands and like following his kind of lead in a way? And how does that help you as a coach and the program and like just developing that culture that you've been talking about?
Yeah, it's added another layer to me as a coach to think through how can we incorporate faith into soccer, into our tactics, into our motivation, into training. There's so many different ways to coach, and we as Christian coaches here at Corbin we follow Jesus and we coach that way too. So my assistants and I have gotten really creative on how can we okay, we're in a low part of the season. How can we find something in scripture to get us out of this so the guys can tie in like being motivated, but also growing their personal faith. My team, we have guys that have been Christian their whole life and others that are just getting started. So we wanted to, as coaches, how can we help them be Christian athletes and how can we help them be Christian men when they leave Corbin? So that challenges us. I have to find stuff every day in scripture, devotionals. I read one of Tony Dungy's devotionals this year with the team to how to be a better Christian coach. And it was cool to challenge myself. Maybe that was a new thing, is at my previous schools that wasn't so important. Here it's massive. It's maybe the most important thing at Corbin. And so I have to be the best Christian coach I can be. It's helped me grow my personal faith. All of us that are Christian maybe go through challenges with that, and it's made me better. So I've enjoyed it. It's been a great layer to who we are as a culture, as a team.
You just mentioned talking with your staff and about things that you can do to continue to pour into the players in the program. How important has putting together a staff been for your success?
I got really lucky here. I have 3 part-time assistants, but they are all Corbin alum from different generations. So they all played here and they love this place. So I had like historical knowledge that I can use. They've been through all the challenges that our conference offers. And they've just poured in their time. They all have full-time jobs outside of coaching, and they come every afternoon to training and they bring stuff. So I've got a goalkeeper coach, an assistant, and then I've got like a director of operations that they know everything, the ins and outs about Corbin. They love this place. And I think I got blessed. I hit a home run with our staff. They made this first year a lot easier than it could have been, because I started June and we started practicing August 1st, and they helped me get through a lot of the stress of a season. And they've been around a long time. That a couple other guys are older than me, and they've been on staff for a while as well. So I just hit a home. I'm repeating myself, but hit a home run with our staff. I think it's massive that I need coaches that aren't just yes men, that they'll challenge me, help me be better, give me their insight on things to do, and maybe go at it with a different approach. But then when I make the tough decision as a head coach, they're going to stand by me, and they did a really good job of that this year.
You talked about when you got there, people helped you with like housing and all those types of things. What has it been like with Corbin as a whole, the whole experience for you, not just like beyond the soccer program? What has that experience been like for you?
Yeah, this is a university that cares deeply about their people, that be their employees or their students. So outside of athletics, people have brought us in. We've had meals. We've been over to people's houses. We've been invited to churches to try to find like our social circle. They've been very supportive of where to like just how to make it work here in Oregon, in a brand new state, a brand new style of life. Being in a bigger city now, we live in the capital, whereas in Minnesota we lived in a tiny town, and the community just deeply cares about each other and their students. It's different. I think a lot of schools do that, but I feel different here, where I can have like a genuine interaction with somebody and they care about us and they want to help us. And even they've embraced like the fact that we're about to have a kid, and they've been super supportive of that. So it's been an awesome community the first, I guess now 6-7 months.
You talked about the move, not only just from Minnesota to Oregon, but also from different levels in terms of divisions. What has that been like? Is there some similarities? Is there really a major difference? What has your experience been in that kind of realm?
I would say it's similar. We just here at Corbin, with the history of our soccer program, have some higher end players, and we're able to work more with internationals, which wasn't my reality at St. Mary's. We weren't. It was not so easy to get internationals at St. Mary's. But we have guys here at Corbin that come from, I guess, would have been the DA or the academy level. We have guys from high level junior college transfers. We have people that played at a high level in other countries. So we're just able to coach and train at a higher level and go into more detail. Maybe that's the difference. From like a level of play, I think it's similar. From a desire to compete, there are similarities. Here in AI, we can train almost year round. So my guys have more expectations of, they want to train more often. They want to spend more time in the weight room or on the field. D3, obviously, it's a little more limited. So those guys, it was very much that student life balance or that student athlete balance. So it's just a different reality going from D3 to NAI, and the guys here just want more when it comes to time. But I think overall it's very close, very similar.
One of the things I love about this is like the diversity kind of idea of just the players you have and then the experiences you've had in terms of growing up. You've seen soccer in South America, Southern US, Minnesota to Oregon. And when you think about all those, is there a difference between styles of play in the different regions? Or is it kind of maybe like you've talked about, I grew up in around kind of flair and passion, so that's kind of how I like my soccer? Or is there kind of a noticeable difference?
I think there is a difference. I mean, to me, a lot of the teams in the Midwest and Minnesota, it was big on physicality, athleticism, and using that, which is fine. No, I like to just, when I get into tactical talks, I don't think there's a right or wrong way. There's just personal preference. And teams in the Midwest were great at the physicality of the game, being direct. I think here in our league, in the Cascade Conference, there's more tactics and technique to it. But there are some physical teams as well. To be honest, at Anderson, we were a massively international team. So there was a huge combination of styles that our coaches had to decide on how they were going to play. I would say maybe that's a common ground. Everywhere I've been, the players have been super respectful of, this is the style the coach wants to play. He has in mind our strengths and weaknesses, and we're going to buy in and believe in the coaching staff and their decisions. But I just love the melting pot of it, from playing in South America all the way up to the Midwest to now out here in Oregon, where you have good players. You have a huge Latino community close to where we are, so there's going to be more of that flair and that passion to it. I think it's also just socioeconomics of what people who lives where and what they look like that influences it too.
You talked about melting pot. You talk about coaches maybe saying, hey, this is how we play. Is there a part of you that kind of looks and gets some feedback from the players and tries to meet them at where they're at in terms of the style that they play? How do you as a coach deal with the melting pot of abilities and style?
I think so. I want them to buy in to what we're going to do. So if that means we have to tweak and change and make slight adjustments, that's totally fine. I think also preseason is a great opportunity to figure out what works and what doesn't. So we tend to test some things and ask for feedback. For example, I'll be open about it. In the early stages, I wanted us to be a pressing team. It wasn't working for our group. Our guys weren't understanding it. So we came together and we decided to go a different way. And they were open and vulnerable enough to give that feedback. And we changed and we didn't press from that point on. And we found some success with it. So I feel like I've always been interested in hearing what the players have to say. I'm not going to change everything, but I'm going to take into their feedback to what helps us be the best team.
Has that self-reflection been something that you've always been good at, or is it something that has come through experience?
I would say it's come through experience and having some good mentors in my corner, even outside of soccer, working alongside other coaches. I've referenced him before. I had a friend who's a women's basketball coach, and he really helped me with the self-reflection piece, pushed me to grow in that area. And also, I did my master's at 1.2 and a lot of sports psych stuff, and self-reflection was a big one there. So I didn't have it in the beginning. It's definitely something that I've added to my toolbox and has gotten better year after year.
The one thing that's cool that you brought up the basketball coach for a couple of times now, how helpful has it been to have someone else that's a coach and is in the mix, but they're completely separate in terms of the style of, like, that basketball and soccer have some similarities, but there's a lot of differences. How nice is it to have someone else that's maybe in it, but not in it?
Yeah, I think a lot of times I've seen this on social media. I think Tyrion Reed talked about it as well. It's like coaches coaching coaches. We have to coach our guys and help them, but who's helping us grow? Who's coaching us? And I've used to struggle with that, but I've tried to surround myself with people that I can call for feedback. And I like the idea of having somebody outside of my realm. My wife is one. My friend that's the basketball coach is another, where I can get a completely unique perspective and maybe I'll learn something from it. I feel like if I was only talking to soccer people, I'd be stuck in a bubble and maybe they would give me the same answers that I'm giving myself, and then we wouldn't solve the problem. So I'm just, and I read last year, I think the author's Cody Royal, it's like coaching coaches, and it helped me learn a lot. And so I've just tried to put people in my circle to help me with that. And my friend that's the basketball coach has been tremendous, where he's been a coach for a lot longer than I, and he just sees things because of his maturity, because of his experience, he can really help me solve the problems here. It was massive for my coaching development to have that person.
You mentioned when you're trying to get away that reading and stuff, that it clearly sounds like you're always looking to learn. What other things have you done, like coaching courses? What things have you done during your times at St. Mary's, when you were at Anderson for that year? What were some of the things that you're always doing to maybe help your learning and growing?
Yeah. I've done some of the United Soccer Coaches licenses and some of the USSF licenses as well. Sometimes there's some financial struggles with those, and I've faced those personally. I'm okay saying that here. So I haven't advanced fully through those yet. So I've tried to find other ways. I've been to the convention once, and I got to meet some people there and found a lot of the sports psych stuff. I'm a huge Dan Abrahams fan, and I met him at the convention in Chicago a few years ago. And he shared a lot of stuff through social media with me that's helped me with grow as well. So maybe not the so traditional of getting all the licenses, but just trying to find other ways. I did my master's in sports psychology and human development. And I was able to kind of mold and create the master's how I wanted it to and learn what I wanted about. So as you said, just trying to find new ways to challenge myself and learn a lot. Sport specific, team specific, but then try to find some things outside of that also.
You talked about recruiting now, little one here in a month or so, and then preparing for the spring. What do you hope to get out of this spring as you start to trend into year number 2?
We want to really establish our identity as a team, and really be known like this is Corbin soccer, the university. Obviously, me coaching, but Corbin University soccer. This is how we play. We're going to spend this time working on it, and then we're going to instill some really strong habits and accountability heading into the new season. You know, we hit the ground running in August. I didn't have there was that pressure of we've got to win a lot of soccer games, get to playoffs. Now in the off season, we can focus on development and identity and help our guys grow, and just show them some steps of how to be more accountable, how to be more intense with their competition, and then fine tune our style of soccer. And then we're going to throw in some other stuff. We're going to, like I've done everywhere else, get out in the community, do some community service. I've got somebody that's going to help us with mental toughness and some sports psych stuff. So we're going to take some time to focus outside of wins and losses while also improving our soccer brand.
That's really cool that they're doing the mental coaching type of thing. You know, we know after going through COVID and all the little things that how important that is. Is that how excited are you about that? And what do you hope to see maybe come about because of having like a specific person that's working on that side of things?
Yeah, I was talking to someone today about it where maybe 10 years ago, soccer was physical, technical, tactical. And I feel like now you probably have to throw in mental into that. And some people already are. That's not something I've invented. You know, we now talk about physical, technical, tactical, mental piece. So, and I love it. I'm a junkie for it and like I said, Dan Abraham's helped me a lot with it too. This young man that's helping us here at Corbin is passionate about it as well, where my guys have this need of they need some mental toughness tools, they need some confidence tools, and they need just some like focus tools as well. And there are so many tools out there that we can teach them. I'm really excited to see them grow in that aspect. I felt as we looked back at the season and did some self-reflection, we could have done better at helping our guys on the mental side of the game. And now we have the opportunity to do so with somebody that's willing to help our team. And myself as a coach, I see the mental side is super important.
Last little thing I want to ask about, and it's more kind of silly, but what are the odds that someone named Corbin ends up at Corbin? Like you even mentioned earlier, I meant Corbin University, not just Corbin me. Was that kind of a weird interact? Like once it came on the radar, and you're like, I think I might go after this job. The fact that it actually has the same name as you with a small vowel difference.
Sure. It's weird and it's fun. It hasn't gotten old yet. It's fun because it's a way to like have a special connection with somebody. And when I go to camps or when I run sessions or if I meet a new team, it's just cool to say, hey, this is the easiest. You're going to meet 10 college coaches today. This is the easiest one. It's Corbin at Corbin. And there's a lot of people here who have sons whose names are also Corbin as well. It's special. I think I saw this on campus. You know, I don't know which language, or it's probably from the Greek, but like Corbin is gift from God. So it's important to the community here in the university. Like we see this place as a gift to us. But it's just funny. I think I wasn't sure if I would go after it. I felt called to it. I thought it'd be cool. My parents still joke about it. I don't know if I've gotten used to it yet. Because for the longest time with recruits and players, I was just Coach Corbin. I've tried the Coach Bowers thing. I don't like it. So I'm sticking to Corbin at Corbin.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Corbin, this chat has been so cool. It's been awesome to hear the story and where you started and where you're at now. And I'm excited to see how this thing goes and excited for the growth of your family, not only just your soccer program, but your family, which is awesome. I'm going to shut this thing down. This is Kieran, Coach's Corner Chats with Corbin Bowers, and I'm out. Peace.